All right, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rob for Smirking Gun Reviews, and we're doing the start of kind of two things. In my last channel update, I said I wanted to start doing kind of like a bucket list thing, where it's movies that I feel like you need to see at least once, but they're not going to be like your typical movies like, you know, Jaws and Back to the Future. There's also kind of a list of movies that, because I'm getting older, and by that I mean I'm hitting my midlife crisis era, and I'm starting to realize that I'm probably not going to see certain movies ever again unless I force myself to. This movie is kind of both. This is Hostiles, and it's a movie I've been meaning to see for quite a long time, ever since I saw the trailer for it. And then I watched, as I always watch all of his stuff, Brad Jones on Stone Gremlin Productions midnight screenings of this. They reviewed this a while back, and it's just one of those movies I just never got around to being able to watch. And it finally just came to Netflix, and so I finally watched it today. And I do consider it one of those movies where that I do highly recommend. But it's also one of those movies where I don't know if I could ever watch it again because of the emotions it brings up. This is a very emotional movie. And I have a feeling that a lot of people that probably rented this and just saw, oh look, Christian Bale and Wes Studi and Rosamund Pike, you know, like, this is going to be a good old Western. So there will be spoilers in this. But first I'm going to just kind of give an overall review of it. And it's a hard movie. It's a really, really hard movie. It is... history was always my favorite subject, especially American history. And one of the things about as I get older and the more I try to learn about history, the dark, you know, the really, really dark stuff, you know, so much came out of the Old West. Just the way people treated each other. Just, you know, we can you know, we could argue about what's the worst tragedy is all, you know, slavery and the Native Americans getting killed. We could fight about what's worse, but it's all just bad. And it just, it's just all so tragically bad. And, while I was watching this, I just, it's hard not to be, to get caught up in not just thinking about what's going on in the movie, but just thinking about how we got here, how we are all right here right now, and all the things that happened back then, that, you know, built this country, and here we are now. And all the just... It's hard not to when you watch a movie like this, to not get, for at least me, to not get caught up in just thinking about the tragedies of the past and just the horrible ways people treat each other, on all sides. This is a movie that I do think needs to be shown to high schoolers. I remember when I was in high school, they took us to see like Last of the Mohicans, and you can see Dances with Wolves and stuff. I think a movie like this is important for kids in high school to see, because this movie has a great kind of, it's not, I don't want to call it redemption, and it's not quite like a forgiveness story, but in this you can see, you know, like how we kind of have to treat each other, how in this movie, well, let me just review it, I guess. It's not too long. The performances are incredible. Very understated performances. A lot is said through facial expressions. There's not a ton of dialogue. The dialogue that is there is very, you know, like just, you know. It stands out. Christian Bale's great, as usual. Wes Studi is very, you know, you've seen him in tons of movies, and he's been, you know, like the wild, you know, like in Dances with Wolves or Last of the Mohicans. This is his like most matured You know, he's coming. His character's coming to the end of his life, and you know that, like a lot of the characters in this movie, they're just, you can feel the history and the weight of everything they've been through in their lives is carried with these people. You can feel it in all the characters. Like you don't need to know everything that happened in their lives to know that everyone in this is dragging some major ghosts with them, major regrets. And so with, you know, solid performances from everybody, and there's like a ton of people in this, some not in it very long. A lot of the people in this are not in it very long, because you've got Ben Foster's in this, who I fucking love. Ben Foster is always good, whether it's in Hell or High Water, or even, you know, like when I saw him in, you know, like the weirdest one is where he played Angel on X-Men: The Last Stand, but like Pandorum. Like anytime I think of Ben Foster, I say maybe the movie he's in isn't the best, but he is like just really good in it. I also got Jesse Plemons in here, you know, from Breaking Bad, and just, you know, recently Game Night and stuff, and he's proving to be a pretty good character actor. Rosamund Pike just kills it in this as just somebody like who's wearing the losses that she's just experienced. Like she's just, I don't know, it's hard to explain without just seeing the movie. You got Adam Beach is in here. I love Adam Beach, all the way back from like God, there's that movie, and I'm not gonna, yeah, he was in Wind Talkers with Nicolas Cage, but there was another movie like Smoke Signals, I think it was called. They always talk about fried bread. Yeah, who else is in this? There's just a bunch of people. Scott Wilson, who played Herschel on The Walking Dead, has a very brief part in this. Rory Cochrane as a very, very haunted, very at the end of his rope soldier. And that's what, like, the major part of this movie is, like, we're at the end. It's 1892, and we're really at the end. The Civil War's over, and, you know, pretty much you know, like, you've got all the people that lived here, the Native Americans, you know, it's pretty much at the end of all of these conflicts. And now all you have is these people that have survived it on both sides that are just shells of human beings. You know that his character has done some terrible, terrible things. He's seen terrible, terrible things happen to other people. He knows that this guy has done terrible, terrible things. Everybody in here there's just about everybody. She's like pretty much the innocent, and like his daughters and his kids, you know, they're the innocents, but like everybody else in this is just, you know, soaked in the blood of each other. And when you first meet him, he's got this just, that the attitude of, he says he doesn't care, like he doesn't want to help this guy who they're supposed to take to Montana. He's dying of cancer. The president of the United States says that they got to take him there. It's kind of like this goodwill tour, because now people are starting to say how bad, you know, the mistreatment of the Native Americans now, way after the fact. They're starting to let them go back to their land to, like, you know, at least in this case, to go back to his land to die with some dignity or whatever. And he doesn't want to go because of everything that he's seen and the tragedies that he's seen done to his friends, even though he's done just as many terrible things. So he begrudgingly takes the small group of people to, you know, start going out there to Montana. At the beginning also of this, we have Rosamund Pike's character, Quaid, Mrs. Quaid, in a thing that's very cliche, but just done, you know, like, her and her family are out in the middle of the wilderness, you know, out living their lives. It always makes me wonder, you know, like, what kind of, like, because when you're introduced to her character, she's teaching her kids about adverbs. Like, it's, you know, they're out in the middle of nowhere, and she's teaching them, she's educating them, but they're living in this place where, it's so unforgiving and so on that razor's edge, life on the balance of that. And the kind of people it takes to be able to be out there on your own with no chance of any help. If anything goes wrong, you're pretty much fucked. And what happens. Like it's that cliche of they get attacked by Indians, and as Brad Jones in Midnight Screening says, yeah, this is a movie where they just straight up kill a baby right at the beginning of this movie. And, you've got the husband who tries to, run. Where are they going to go? That this is not going to end well. And everybody goes down. Like everyone. And she gets away, and even though she's running with her baby in her arms, you can just see that baby's dead. But she doesn't. I don't think she realizes it, and if she does, like she's in like locked up, like in her brain, like I have to protect my baby, and it's very intense, and you don't know what's going to happen. Even though I know the major plot of this movie, like I know she's going to live, but it's till like a certain point in the movie, but it's very intense, very scary. Just how bad, like people just are to each other, whether you're Native American or you're a soldier or you're a person just out there living on your own, not knowing that you could be on somebody's land, or somebody could just be pissed off that you're there and you're white or whatever. It does, it just, so her whole family dies. They burn the house down, and they end up finding her there. She's got her kids like covered up in the bed. She's got a dead baby in her hands, and she's in shock. She pretty much feels like she's just waiting to die, to join her family. But they take her with on this journey. Now, like at the beginning of this journey, he is, like I've said, he didn't want to go. He, basically tells the guy, like, the parade's over, we don't have to, we're not putting on any more shows here, like, kind of laying it out for him, you step out of line, we're just going to kill you. But as this movie goes on and things happen, people start to drop. It's very kind of Saving Private Ryan, where, people just kind of start to drop off on, they're on this mission that nobody really wants to go on, and people start to, things start to happen. They're like attacked by these guys, like the same ones that killed her people. There are all other sorts of dangers along the way, where people start to drop off. They end up at this fort where they are asked to take a prisoner to another place where he's going to be hanged. He's another soldier that knows him. You kind of know where this is headed. It's not going to end well for for anyone, really, because this guy was a butcher, and he's kind of there to throw, as a part of the story, to throw his like own crimes at him. Like, I'm you, you're me. Like, any circumstances that different, you could be where I am, getting ready to be hanged for the things that I've done. You've done the same basic things that I have. So it's just he's there as the mirror for this character, and throughout the way, there is this kind of understanding that Christian Bale's character starts to go through about that we're all mortal, that they've all done terrible things, and they have to band together to get there. And throughout this journey, they start to become like more like, I'm not going to say friends, but like a general more acceptance of each other. Like, I don't know. It's very tough to explain without seeing it yourself. I do think this is a really good movie. It makes me think a lot about just how we need to be with for each other, and and hopefully, you know, things like the tragedies that have gone on in this country, we can try to not make the same mistakes, and try not to treat people the way that we've treated people in the past. I guess, I mean, I could go into way more spoilers, but this movie does have a kind, I'm surprised it kind of has a hopeful ending. I really like the ending of this. And like the poster says, we're all hostiles, and it kind of shows throughout. It has this kind of ending that you'd expect. One of the movies that this reminds me of is Unforgiven with Clint Eastwood. It's kind of like the Unforgiven for cowboys and like soldiers and Native Americans near the end of, you know, the 1800s, where basically, you know, like everybody's out there. And there's even lines that Rory Cochrane gives this like little speech that is practically from Clint Eastwood, where it's like, I pretty much killed anything, walked or crawled at one point or another. And you know, how do you live with that? How do you accept that? How do you know, wrap your head around that? How do you live? How do you come to terms with the things that you've done? And it's a really great character piece of how people live and die with these things that they've done, and trying to, in the end, do the right thing. I know I am not quite doing this movie justice. It's like I said, it's a movie you do have to see for yourself. But it's up there now with like really, really great movies. Like when people would ask me if this is one of my favorite movies, like I have a hard time making those kind of lists. Like there's certain ones that, yes, will go down in history as my favorite movies, like Shawshank Redemption and Pulp Fiction. But as far as movies that I like but probably don't need to see again, this is up there. And I can't say that I won't see this again, but I don't need to see it for quite a while, because it does bring up a lot of emotional feelings. And maybe that's just because I'm a sap. It's one of those movies that make me really melancholy. It makes me really sad for all the ways that I think back and how people have treated each other in this country. It's just terrible. Anyway, I don't look at me, Mr. Debbie Downer over here, but I do highly recommend this movie. It is on Netflix, so you can watch, you know, since so many of us have Netflix, you can check it out there. Otherwise, I do highly think that you should try to find a way to watch this movie at some point in your life. Whether you see it anymore, maybe you'll think it's boring, maybe you won't, but I happen to find this movie fascinating. So, if you like this video, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, all that jazz. And that's about it for this. Eventually I'll come up with the title for what I want to call this. This isn't one of my waited for Blu-ray movies. I wasn't waiting for Blu-ray for this to come out. This is just a movie that I never got around to being able to see, and now I'm really glad I have. So this is Rob for Smirking Gun Review saying we'll see you in the next video, and have a great night, and please treat each other well. Bye.